We're back.
We're back, Ed.
We had a little hiatus. We took like 2 months off, right?
No, we
didn't do a broadcast in January, and we're doing one at the end of February.
Didn't we do one in December though?
We did.
Okay, so
but December was results for for November.
Why? It's 1 month off in my book.
So my
anyway,
question
it's good
is,
to be back.
If you missed us, put it in the chat. Anything's going to happen.
Yeah, if you missed this, put us in the chat. That's going to be a very empty chat right now. I can just tell.
Hey, if you haven't posted your favorite pancakes, get that thing in the chat as well. Your favorite pancakes, blueberry banana right here.
Oh, I love it.
And Victor came up with something weird.
Sweet potato, man. Go to Sweet Potato. Cracker Barrel has a great
sweet potato
pancake mix. For those of you, I love pancakes, man. I love pancakes.
Hey, man. So
yeah,
a lot of West Coast folks out there, I see.
Yeah.
This is kind of our West Coast broadcast. We do have some
April
East Coast.
Bunting's got the big red in the back. She's like, yeah, I'm proud of this, man. Let me fly that flag.
April's one of our call center managers, just killing it this year.
April.
They're killing it.
Do it, April.
Killing it.
Let me see.
I got Nick from New York, upstate New York's on there, President's Club winner.
Yeah.
See him in New Orleans in a little bit, a couple weeks. We're going to New Orleans in 3 weeks.
No, Shreveport.
No, you're going to Shreveport for a meeting. We're going to New Orleans to party.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yeah,
I'm going to Shreveport.
President's Club is in New Orleans, and we're going to have like 100 reps there, 100 salespeople, there, which will be super cool.
Not invited there.
Who else is? I see
Brandon Blankenship. I just want to say that. That's all I wanted to say.
Nice.
It sounds like a cool name. By the way, again, Witness Protection Program. Look right there. That's all right. It's all good in the hood.
He has become a.
Is he any good? Does he sell?
Yeah,
anything?
he's a recently promoted RSM. He's killing it, man. He's killing it.
Good, man.
There's some smashy Darius Williams out there. Who else you see?
Who's Joe Rigoza, man? He's got the Golden State Bridge behind him or something. Is that right, Joe?
Nice. Darren Brinson, our leader up in the Northwest, is there. Mark McConnell, his cohort in crime, is there. There's my man Brian Bergeron. He's out of the library. He's out of the library. Remember, he's the guy that always has the library background.
Oh, the look?
Brian's out. It looks like he's out in the field. He looks like he's out in his front yard or something. I can't figure that out.
Hey, Rodney Townsend, smile a little bit, man. Get off that other line, man.
Rodney Jones, another President's Club performer, headed to New Orleans.
I bet.
Outstanding. Outstanding.
All right, so we got cool people. Sarah, what's happening? Skepla? Did I get that right?
I don't know.
Kind of. She's like, maybe you got it right, Victor. I don't know.
Hey,
so,
man.
Anyway.
Well, let's get going.
Cool. Let's do this, man.
So, again, we missed you last month, and we're kind of play a little catch up here. So, the first thing I want to do is just kind of put a button and a bow on 22, right? 2022, and kind of share.
How do you put a button and a bow on something?
I don't know. Why do you always make fun of my Midwest?
I mean, you put a bow on it. Why would you put a button on it?
Somebody help me out, man. He's killing it.
All right, go ahead. Button and a bow. Let's put a button on a bow on 2022.
Somebody wrap up 2022 sales-wise.
Oh, nicely done. That's well done.
There you go.
I can understand that.
Hey, so the cool news is that on the termite side, the termite and ancillary side of the house, our finish in 2022 was an incredible 26% increase over the prior year. And give it up for that. I mean, absolutely. That's what most of these folks sell on this call.
Yeah.
And like we talked in the first broadcast at 8 this morning.
Why wasn't it 30? Why wasn't it 30?
It was 4 consecutive years of 20% termite ancillary increases across the country.
That's amazing.
Just outstanding. Just outstanding. Y'all are just killing it, and it just continues to happen and just continues.
Amazing numbers, man.
Crazy.
Amazing number.
Yeah.
And your bosses are happy?
My bosses are. I got a new boss, Pat Chernowski. I think some of you have met him already. He's making the rounds around the country. He's a built for growth, sales focused. Orchid president.
He's that guy.
And I love him. I love him for all that.
Yeah.
Commercial sales in 2022. Again, another great story to tell. 12% year-over-year increase. Again, just another continuing. The old broken record thing we talked about in the previous broadcast.
Well done.
Yeah, outstanding. We did slip a little bit, last year in 22 with residential pest control sales. We fell short. We just about, we kind of laid flat to last year. We didn't have any increase. It was kind of flat.
Okay.
And that was really the result of demand being down. Inbound leads, and what drives, April and the team out there at the call center is folks calling us, and they kill it on the phone. They're closing, their closure's way up. So they held their own, held flat to last year with an 18% lead decrease. So 18% less people came in or called in, but they still kept their sales above.
So Tim still has a job.
Tim, they're doing a great job out there. They're doing a great job. Speaking of that, transitioning, kind of closing the door on 22. January, the first month out with our new leader Pat Chernowski with his Built for Growth message, we killed it. So we went 3 for 3. We crushed our termite sales again at, I think it was, what did I write down here, 26% over last year.
Nice.
In January. Termite ancillary, which most of these folks on this call sell.
Right.
And we crushed our termite again, or we crushed our commercial sales again, 12.5% year-over-year increase. Again,
Nice.
double-digit growth. And for the first time in probably 17 or 18 months, we had a double-digit residential pest control sales increase.
Okay.
And that's the stuff that is really the lifeblood of our residential home sellers. They go out and they see all these new customers and offer them a free inspection, and they go out there and then they sell all these ancillary services. So
Nice.
we plow some more in there. I guess it's
love it.
like new opportunity, just knocking on the door, coming in.
What was like one thing? I'm putting you on the spot because it was a random question. What was like one thing out of 2022 that stood out for you? Like, you know what? I didn't expect this, Victor. This happened, and this is, something like that.
Yeah, I think just the ability to sustain the growth in termite ancillary, right?
From 21 to 22.
Yeah, well, heck, from 19 to 22, right, all the way through.
Right.
When you're cranking out sales increases on a very mature sales organization, right? We're a 100+ year company. When you're able to stack 20% increases 4 or 5 years in a row, you wonder when when it's going to run out. Like I'm sitting here like walking around on pins and needles and happy with January. We're struggling a little bit in February, but we'll turn that around. But I think that would be the continuing ability to just get more where you sit from my seat and you're like, oh my God, when is this gravy train going to run out?
Yeah.
Which is a terrible thing to think. But as we add new people and we get new people on board, and we're just raising the bar with our inspectors individually.
Right.
Like 90, I think the stat was 93% of our sales inspectors, home sales inspectors last year, made 8 to 10% more money than they made the year before. So you're talking about growing the company. They're growing that, right?
What percent? 80 what? 80.
90% of them made
90.
8 to 10% more at a minimum.
Yeah.
At a minimum.
That's
there were only a handful of folks that made less money in 22 than they made in 21.
So for my brain to understand, 90% increased their sales by at least 9%.
Yeah.
90-90, I'll call it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, just outstanding.
Well
and
done.
again, both 22 and January converted to profit, which is awful important to my boss, right? Converted to profit. We made revenue plans and we made profit plans, which is just, at the end of the day, this is what we do this for.
What's the one thing that Pat keeps pushing you on?
Just
when nobody's in the room.
Are we built for growth?
Okay.
Do we have enough bodies on hand to get the work done? We run some scary numbers on backlog. The number of jobs that we sell that we can't get to right away. We got some jobs or some areas and some branches and some markets out in the country to where if you sell a big termite bundle, you may be waiting a couple weeks to get it done.
Interesting.
And that kind of gets into that whole mind psyche of the client saying, boy, I want to get it done now. So we go out there, we talk urgency, you got to fix this, you got to fix this, you got to fix this. And they go, okay, Victor, hang on, brother. We can't get to you for 2 weeks. So, they're in our pros they work their way through how to handle that, but I think that would be Pat's concern. And the other thing on the sales side is we're down. We need probably 60 more residential sellers in the marketplace. So they've got to get more teammates, I guess, to really be able to be built for growth.
Bigger head count.
So I think that's the one focus that Pat has, is making sure his term is you have the horses in the barn.
Yep.
He's a big horseman, his kids, and he does a lot of 4-H stuff with the kids, but his idea is we got to have the horses in the barn to get the work done and to get the work sold.
Yeah. By the way, I should tell them that one of the topics we're going to talk about in Shreveport is how to, reduce, churn, people leaving the company. So we'll be hitting that in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Yeah. Victor's coming out to talk to the South Central Division Group, the folks that are on the call for that. So he's going to address them specifically. We had some outstanding performances. We're going to play a little bit of catch up again with our 100K club for December, and then we're going to roll into January as well. So, I see a whole bunch of SoCal folks on the call here. You're going to see a bunch of SoCal popping up, right? So, Stormy, if you'd roll to that video, that'd be awesome. Wowzers.
Good numbers, man. Great numbers, man. Good numbers.
Think about that, right?
Yeah.
So you see Tyler Jones, Mark Tyler Jones.
Tyler
He's got like
Jones.
one of them guys with two first names, but
Man, he's killing it both December and January. Tyler Jones, way to go, man.
is there a new sheriff in town, I might ask, right?
Yeah.
So the cool thing about him is he is our Rookie of the Year for President's Club, and he's going to be going to New Orleans as a Rookie of the Year in, I want to say 7 months. He was on the first call.
Okay.
In 7 months, he sold over $600,000. Coming right out of the gates. He's been employed here for I guess what would be 9 months now.
Wow.
And he jumped out and he captured those top 2 prizes in the
that's amazing.
in the first group.
Congratulations. You got Hassan, the Corpus, one half of the Brotherhood right there.
Yeah. Ray Bryan is not on there.
No.
Somehow he didn't make it. But the cool thing is you see the SoCal stuff going on, right? I mean, just crushing it in December.
Danny Uribe. And the Worth brothers.
The Worth brothers. Gabriel getting in there.
Gabriel's in there.
Just outstanding.
Roberto Morales, California. There you go. Some Californians in the house.
West Coast showing up strong.
Yeah.
Showing up strong. Hassan was our chairman of the Chairman's Club in 22.
Nice.
He's a perennial guy on top of that list.
I have to ask you before I forget, why is Brian Worth, you got, in December he's got 759 is his code, and then he's got 719 Orange County.
That is not a typo. That's a great story, actually. So as we grow, as we're built for growth, we open up new regions. And so the cool thing about that is we opened up 3 brand new regions last year, 1 commercial and 2 residential. And the Orange County that Brian Worth is part of now is really the same turf. He's still selling in the same turf.
Right.
But it's the first region that is really encompassed by a single county. Okay. And I mean, it's just phenomenal growth that they've had out there. So as we grow business, we create new opportunities. We got a new region manager, we got a new region sales manager, we got new branch managers. So that's why Brian's in a different thing. And I think it'll all shake out as they kind of scatter their way around. But
yeah, man.
But just, I mean, again, for the new folks on the call, I see a lot of new faces out there. Just do the 14% math and do the calculation on commissions. If we're paying you $1,000 a month or $1,500, whatever you're getting paid monthly. Tyler Jones in the last couple months has made.
So he made about $28,000 in December.
Yeah, and 30.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so it's making $60,000 in 2 months, and that used to be a really good annual pay.
That's good money, man.
I mean,
that's good money.
That's good money. I think like $60,000 would
money.
be like the top of the food chain in average salaries across America, but just outstanding. And a lot of the same names you see out there, just really, really strong stuff.
Brian throwing out a real nice congrats to Hassan and obviously Tyler. Under Hassan, the chairman of the Chairman's Club. Can't wait to see you in New Orleans.
Amen.
Brian says
Amen.
Brian.
Absolutely.
Cool.
So I thought what we would do today, and it's that time of year, right? So the phone's going to start to ring in your turf. You're going to get a few inbound leads. Mm-hmm. And I really want to kind of, I hate the word back to basics, right? I don't think that makes sense. But what I really want to do is just share kind of some reminders and really slow it down a little bit.
Sure.
Slow it down a little bit. I got this thing I've been talking about for many, many years about bringing it perfect. Yep. And there's kind of a David Letterman top 10 list, right? Do this, 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 and this. And I always try to share that message this time of year. And I probably shared it 10 or 12 times already in kickoff meetings. Mm-hmm. But I thought I would do for the group today is you and I would kick it around, because what I love that you do and you bring to the dance for us is, I've been doing this a long time. A lot of these guys have been crazy successful, and we know what works, or we kind of think we have a pretty good understanding of what it works, but oftentimes we don't understand why it works. Right. Like, it's just so natural. Like you saw the interview we did with Hassan when we were in the Northeast. He said, well, what makes you successful? I just go out and do it, right? And it's like, no, you got to tell us more. But that's all he knows.
Right.
So I thought what we would do is let's go to the slide, Stormy, and talk about slowing it down and focusing on the little details that are so vital that I think oftentimes we get rushing, we get moving too fast, we get too busy, we get too much in our own head that we don't slow it down. And this is John Wooden, probably the greatest college basketball coach ever. Certainly based out there in LA at UCLA. But it's the little things that make the big things happen. And I've been accused way too many times of probably going, it's not a good term, but it's the only way I know how to explain it, of being kind of like way too anal about breaking down a sale and looking at the minutest of the detail.
Sure.
And I think that this is what we want to do today, is talk a little bit about
Let's
that.
do that. Let's do that. I think it's good. By the way, it's a good kickoff topic.
Yeah.
Good kickoff topic, so let's do that.
So, and I think as we go through this, if you see us talking about something, hit it up in the chat, right? So let's go to that first slide, that second slide, Stormy, I guess, and talk about killer inspection. You know, I don't know that I tagged the line killer inspection years ago, but I may have.
Killer.
But, you know, the idea is if you're going to bring it perfect, you got to bring an inspection that nobody else is bringing. It's got to be so memorable and so visual to the customer that they see and they say, wow, that cat is different, right?
By the way, is that you in the upper right-hand corner there?
That's not even fair. I realize I started a long time ago, but I started after they had black and white photos.
Look, yeah.
Now, some of the ones when I was a little kid might have been black and white, but that's an old Orkin man from way back
in the day
that we pulled on that.
Yeah.
But you see these guys and these gals inspecting the entire home, right? Doing that full home inspection. I think sometimes this time of year, we kind of jump to the conclusion on an inbound lead where the people may have termites swarming out of their baseboard, and they want to run you to the spot, that we just want to settle for that and not do that whole inspection. And the story you've shared a few times before, certainly with me, you've shared it in some of the groups we've been in, but talk about your experience with the guy doing an inspection that really separated himself from what you anticipated was going to happen.
Yeah, so we needed a new, we had a leak in the roof. We thought it was coming from the roof, and it turned out it was just a piece of flashing. But here's what was interesting about this guy. First of all, he gets there, right, to actually look at this leak that we have. And I was telling Ed, he had a personality of a rock, zero personality, he was all business. Rings the bell and he's like, hi, and I'm like, hi. And then he goes, you called? And I'm like, who are you? He goes, I'm the guy that's gonna look at your leak. And I said, okay. He goes, can you show me where it's at? And I was telling Ed, he used maybe 10 words before I just rushed him over to the spot because he just had no personality. So then he says, okay, I guess he looks at it and then he disappears. And we wonder where he went. My wife was like, where'd he go? Where'd he go? Comes back, rings the doorbell again about, I don't know, 10 to 15, 20 minutes later. And he's standing out there. I'm like, what are you doing out there ringing the doorbell again, right? And he goes, okay, I think I found your problem. And so he steps in and he tells us that it's just a flashing problem that he can fix it for like $200 or something like that. But then he does this. He whips out his yellow pad and he says, I also took the time to look at your gutter system. And he drew this top view of the actual house and the different gutter sizes that we had. We had 3 inches, 6 inches, whatever it may have been. And he said, here are some of your problem or choke points, something we had not thought of. But we were basically taken aback by the fact that he actually went that extra step. And what wound up happening is not only did we hire him to do the actual patching job for the flashing, but then we hired him to actually do the rest of the job, which is about a $2,000 job. Yeah. So he went from a $200 job to, let's say, a $2,000 job. But he was the one that actually promoted that second half. Hey, what about this? Have you thought about this? And I'm like, no, we haven't thought about it. Well, here's some of your problems. And you're like, we wouldn't have thought about it.
Yeah.
But he offered it up. That's an inspection. That's a killer inspection.
And I think that ties so well into what we do, right? So we get that inbound lead, or we get that opportunity to inspect the house, and we stop at the leak.
Yep.
You know, so the customer's expectation is, well, I'm sure when you called, you know, oh, they'll come out, they'll fix the leak. Honey, we probably got $500 tied up in this, right? And he shows up and he walks away with $2,000. And how did he walk away with $2,000? He expanded his view and expanded your ideas of what needed to be done.
I almost felt like he cared more about my house than I did.
How about that?
Do you know what I mean? I mean, just pause on that thought for a while. I felt like he cared more about my house than I did.
Yeah.
Because he's like, you're not looking at this. Now imagine if you're doing the same thing. We got termite problem here, but then I widen my inspection to make sure everything else is okay. You're looking out for my best interest. That's the mindset.
Amen. And instead of a yellow pad, Victor, we got this really cool, sexy tool that we can make pictures on, and we can draw beautiful graphs, and we can show you all the pictures. We can show you these trouble spots. We can show you these different gutters on this iPad tool, and we can expand our inspection to do just exactly what that fella did with you, right? He expanded your look. He said, well, we do have some other problems.
Yeah.
And I think that's our job as inspectors, is to do that. And I think oftentimes they come in like the gutter thing, right? You think about selling somebody just a termite service, right? You go in and they got swarmers, and there are some folks out there that are hesitant to expand the big bundle because they think they're in competition, particularly when they're inbound leads. So you get into that spot and you say, okay, I'm just going to sell them the termite work today. I'm going to fix that problem. I'll come back after the work's done, and I'll chase down that attic. I'll chase down that crawl space work. I'll chase down that mosquito pest control work. And I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't serve it all up.
Yeah. There's a reluctance to do that.
Yeah, there's a hesitation to do that because they think they're going to get priced out. So if you think about an inbound office lead where, let's face it, customers are probably going to get 2-3 estimates oftentimes, right? And there's times that you're not going to be able to talk them out of doing that, right? So you've got to create some separation. You do it by doing this inspection that wows them. Like I think I see it in the chat a couple of times. People tell me I do better inspections than anybody else, right? You see that in there. But you do that by separating. But I think the other way you can separate on an inbound office lead when you're in competition, let's keep it simple with the Terminix guys. You're going to charge $1,500 for a termite service. You're going to charge $2,800 for that same swarmer lead. Yep. You're both going to show up at the house and do the same thing, right? But if you took that further and you tried to, if you tried to make that comparison and try to separate that difference between $2,800 and $1,500, it's an uphill battle sometimes. You really got to bring it perfect, right? But if you tell them, look, if I just sold you a termite service, Victor, I wouldn't be doing right by you. Because if I don't fix the moisture that's laying on the outside of the foundation by fixing those gutters and correcting that moisture problem, the chances of your termite protection being super effective, it certainly disseminates a little bit. It's not going to happen.
Absolutely.
And the same thing with attics and things like that. And so you expand that inspection to do the whole home, and so you come back and you say, I don't need $2,800. They want $1,500. I want 15 grand.
Right.
Because I'm going to serve up all the problems. Now, very similar to your scenario. Started out with 200, ended up 10 times that, right? Yep. So you start at 2,500, on a termite job, and you end up 10 times that at 25,000. There are guys on this call every day that sell bundles 15, 12, 25, 35,000 because they're serving it all up.
But they add to that, Ed, they don't sell with their own pocketbooks.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I would do that. Well, that's not your decision to make.
Amen.
It's their decision to make.
Amen.
I love some of these comments. I got to read some of these.
Go ahead.
Justin Newby says, I've been told that recently a couple of times. Wow, quote, wow, the other guy never even looked there, or the other company. Adam Humphrey says, don't expect what you don't inspect. Chris says, preach on, man. Preach on.
Amen. Yeah, if you've got some that you've heard from folks, put them in the chat. It'll be helpful. We'll share the chats with everybody later. But I think that's the first thing. I think too oftentimes this time of year, we get rushed to doing inspections, and we may have appointments that are backed up. Heck, you may be running this one late, right?
Gotcha.
You may have had to reschedule because you got hung up at another house, spent too much time there.
Right.
But I think the toughest thing to tell folks is slow down.
Slow down to speed up.
Let the game come to you. Slow down to speed up, right? Great book. Book. Slow down to speed up. But think through that a little bit and understand that you're there.
Yeah.
Put it all together.
Get
on the roof. Get in the attic. Get in the crawl space. Do something that nobody else is doing to separate you.
There's like the psychological aspect of that. It's almost like the rule of reciprocity, right? And that is, if I give you something, Ed, you feel somewhat indebted to give me something right back.
Yeah.
So if I go in there and I do all this inspection, I go beyond the average, then I feel to some extent this pull to want to reciprocate by maybe buying from you.
Absolutely.
That's the psychology behind it. For you guys out there, put in the chat, what do you do in your inspection that makes it a killer inspection? That, every time I do this, I typically close this. Yeah. Can you put that in the chat? Like, what do you guys do? What's one thing you do that you say, when I do this, man, I kill it. I always get it.
One of the ones we got in the first chat was when he goes into an attic to do an inspection, he goes full Tyvek suit. Full face respirator, right? Boom. He doesn't go up there without a respirator on. If he's going to come down and tell them they got problems up there.
Yeah.
Same thing in the crawl space. You suit up, you do the work, you show use the PPE because we want you to be safe.
Yeah.
But you use the PPE because we want you to sell more.
And by the way, the customer sees this, right? And said, okay, it's a serious company. They're going up there, as opposed to the average person, let's just say they go up there without the mask or whatever it may be.
Amen.
Craig Barrett says, don't think about the next appointment when you're in the middle of an inspection.
Amen.
Bam! Knock that down.
Ken McLean's reading ahead.
Is he? I think he is.
You see it?
Yeah, I see it. He's reading ahead. Ken's reading ahead, and so
Ken, you're reading ahead. Did you watch the first broadcast?
Yeah, and so is iPhone Josh. He's doing the same thing. B. Worth says, detailed graph with repair details. Peter Barres has taken my tie off in front of them to put on my love this, my crawl space equipment. It's like Superman stuff. All right, I'm ready to go in.
That's my favorite thing to do. Some of these guys listen. And B. Worth, by the way, is just the superstar, right? He's the past chairman of the Chairman's Club. So go on to the next slide.
Yep. All right, there you go, on cue.
On cue. Served up by our guys that might have watched the first broadcast. So killer inspection is one of kind of the pillars of the bringing it perfect, right?
Yeah.
You got. They have to visually experience you doing something way different.
Yeah.
But more importantly, when you do that, what do you got to do when you're doing that inspection?
Yeah.
You got to take pictures.
Yeah.
Talk about the value
Dude,
of taking
you know,
pictures.
I love what you just said, that they have to visually experience you doing that.
Yeah.
So that's when they talk about taking off the tie, whatever it may be, and then
Amen.
going into with the hazmat suit,
Amen.
if I can put it that way.
Amen.
But there's something called picture superiority. Picture superiority basically is what you already know. That's the formal name of saying a picture's worth 1,000 words. But also, when you're taking these pictures, and we talked about this on a previous broadcast, it's not just about taking lots of pictures. It's about, as you're taking this picture, in your head, you begin to assemble this story of how you're going to present these pictures. In other words, to create that sense of urgency.
Yep.
What would you add to that, Ed?
I would say that become expert at using this thing to take pictures.
Yeah.
And I think that's an art that needs to be practiced and can be practiced. You can get really good at this. And if we pop the next slide, Stormy, up, I'll share a couple of things on the. Again, I'm talking to Stormy, and you're doing it there.
Yeah. There you go.
We'll figure this out eventually. We've been off a couple months.
Yep.
So a couple pictures here for you. I just want to point out. I just grabbed a couple good ones that I've had kind of stored in my phone. The first one on the top left is if you're selling a. I think this one came from Greg McCauley originally. If you're selling Dry Zone and you're selling against competitors that are using white, black, whatever kind of poly they're using, whatever mill poly they're using, and they're laying that on the walls, you're not able to find out if there's termites there. No. This is a picture of our reinforced poly, and you see the reinforcement in there, and you see the termite tunnels behind there. So if you're competing against a crawl space company that's putting up something that's not going to allow you to see the termite access, what a perfect way to knock them right out of the loop.
Yep.
Here's why we use this. The other one that I've been talking and preaching, I guess, for a while about adding to your inspection kit is that black Sharpie marker, right?
Yeah.
So it's 2, 21, 23.
Yes.
So if I'm out at an inspection today and I find something like this, I'm going to put the date on there, right?
Right.
I'm going to scratch the date on that joist. And if I happen to rip through there and find some termites in that joist, I might move down 6 inches.
Right.
Get my phone just right, hold my light just right, get this thing perfect, put that black Sharpie date on there, 2, 21, 23,
right.
Put that on there, pop that screwdriver in, put this thing on video, rip that joist down, and watch those little white pellets of gold fall out. And now I got a 5-minute video, or 5-second video that I can take upstairs and just say, here's what I found. And they see by the date that it happened today. You take all the doubt out of the way, and they see that, and that gets them creeped out. So if you go back to the picture slide,
by the way, it's interesting that you do it just to make sure they don't doubt that that's not a pre-recorded something.
Think about the one on the top right.
Yeah.
You're talking about moisture level readings, right? So there are re-inspections you go out to all the time that you go out to, and maybe it's the 3rd or 4th year you've been out there, and you keep talking to them about they need to do some work in the crawl space, they need to do something with these moisture readings, and you show them the progression of them getting worse, right?
Yeah.
So maybe the first time you were there, they were reading at 24. Second time, you come in the springtime, it's reading at 34. So they see that kind of deteriorating, and you can paint that picture over the years to where, sometimes a Dry Zone is 15, 20 grand, right? Yeah. They might not buy it the first time you pitch it. Yeah. You hear stories all the time. Hey, I pitched this 2 years ago. It finally came through. And I think if you have that kind of history with that customer of having those pictures, I think it makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And in the earlier broadcast, somebody mentioned that they showed the customer the moisture reading, and it was the first time anybody had shown them the moisture reading.
Yeah.
And again, we take it for granted that consumers know this. They don't.
Amen.
I don't think I've ever seen a moisture reading myself.
How about that? And that's the right moisture reading meter to use, I think, if you go back to the slide, Stormy. That one that is so digital. Again, he's got the light held right.
Yep.
He's got the Orkinet on the beam. He's got it dated. And you can see the moisture meter glowing, and I think it says, I can't see that.
25.8.
25.8, right? So you're capturing at that point in time. So they see that picture, they know that's their house, right?
I love it. I love it.
The other thing we talked about in the first broadcast was the progression. So you're talking about attic remediations, you're talking about doing all these attic seals, you're talking about doing all these services, and you're talking about maybe a Dry Zone, a full Dry Zone, where you're doing a full clean out, you're taking everything out, and you're putting it all back in. I think it's very helpful to have pictures that kind of walk them through the progression of that process. So here's your attic now. Here's what we're going to do, Mr. Victor. We're going to take all this stuff out.
Yeah.
So you got a picture of it. We're then going to go and we're going to exclude all these rodents from the attic. There's a picture of that. Then we're going to sanitize. You got a picture of that sanitation. Then we're going to blow this stuff back in, and here's what it's going to look like at the
Yeah.
end of the day.
I love
Kind of
that.
those, same with the dry zones, all those kind of progression pictures, befores, afters.
Yeah, it's almost like you want to divide. There's problems and then the progression picks, right? The problem picks is like, okay, here's what's happening up there. You tell the story with the problem, and then as you're pointing out, the progression pick. Here's what we're going to do before to get to after,
Yeah.
and mentally have that. And believe it or not, that helps the consumer make a buying decision.
And
that
they
much quicker.
understand the work that's involved, right?
Yeah,
so if
absolutely.
you just show them, hey, here's your attic now, it looks like crap, right? We
Yeah.
got to get all this stuff out of here.
Right.
Here's some droppings. Here's what it's going to look like when we're done.
Right.
Without showing them that progression.
progression.
All the work that's
a
involved.
great point.
Show them pictures of
Powerful
the
point.
of the insulation being sucked
Yeah.
out in the big bags. You know, they're sitting
Yeah.
in the dumpsters, right? Show them that whole process as you're explaining this.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if you think of, oh, you're going to clean my attic out. Okay.
Yeah,
Doesn't seem
so,
like much.
yeah.
Oh my God, look at all that work.
When you show them the actual, it's subtle what you're saying, but it's powerful.
Yeah.
Because if you show them the progression, they go, oh, that's the work they're going to put in. Subconsciously, that's building value.
Amen.
Yeah, I
Amen.
love that. That's
and then
great.
again, capturing pictures gives you an opportunity to tell the story. And you know, one of the lines that I was taught a long time ago that, you know, the problem we got here, Mr. Goodman, is we're sitting here and you got these issues going on. We know two things for sure. Two things are guaranteed. Not death and taxes.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
There's two things in my business that are guaranteed. This problem isn't going to get any cheaper to fix.
Right.
If you continue to let it go, you're going to be tagged with more repairs, and our services aren't getting any cheaper.
Right.
And the other thing is, it's not getting any better if we don't do anything.
Correct.
So those are the two things that are for sure in the industry. You know, in the
It ain't going to go away, ain't going to get cheaper, it's going to get worse.
So we should do it now.
I love it. By the way, real quick here, Jay Johns says, I agree with the customer that it is more expensive and show them what they're going to pay for. Price does not matter as much as people claim.
Bingo.
I like this guy. You can sell more by upgrading for a higher price, bundling versus going straight to a discount to try to beat out the competition. Man, that should be put on some plaque somewhere.
Amen.
You know, because too often we want to run to a discount because we think it's cheaper. But if we're really thinking about the customer, we should be thinking bundling.
Absolutely.
How do I give you everything you need that I think you need without overselling them on what they don't need? So I want to be clear. It's not about overselling people.
Let me come at the Terminex guy that's offering a $1,500 termite job when I got a $15,000 bundle that makes sense to improve the termite efficiency, and I'll take that chance any day.
I love it.
I'll take that chance.
I agree.
Any day.
I agree.
Let's go to the next slide, not the
All
last
right.
one.
This one right here. I think I got that one right there.
Yeah, so this is kind of
I like this one.
a stickler point, right? And if you think about this pay when you're happy. If you haven't unpacked it, it's the RAC, deferred billing, whatever the heck you want to call it, but it's telling the customer, pay us when you're happy. Victor, we are so sure of the work that we do that you're going to be amazed by the way that we handle the billing and how we settle up for these services. We don't ask for any money up front.
What?
We're so confident in the work that the fellas are going to do that we're going to come out, we're going to do all the work.
Right.
I'm going to get a chance to come back and check it because we're making a promise to each other. My boss is coming back, and when you are completely satisfied with the service and the results that service renders, that's when we'll settle up. You can pay it off 90 days, same as cash, or you can set it up on a convenient billing option all the way up to 60 months for $312 per month.
Got it.
Isn't that the kind of company you want to do business with? And
Sold.
so you figure this out, right? I mean, we got B. Worth on the call, right? He's like the #1 rack salesman in the country, right? And everything that he sells is pitched with rack. I would bet, post your market share, each of you, post your individual or your branch or your region market share in the chat, and I think you'll see Brian's is close to 90%. Nine out of 10 contracts he sells get run through this process. And I used John Quan as the example in the last broadcast. You know, out on the West Coast, Mia Hamm, you know, the world's greatest female soccer player, and Nomar Garciaparra, a pretty good baseball player. They have a net worth of $100 million, and they bought their termite service from John Quan on rack 90 days deferred billing.
John Quan's got to be bragging about that.
Oh,
he's got to be
gotta
bragging about that.
And he also sold the Dodgers closer, but that's another story. But those people certainly had the money to strike the check.
Right.
And I hear that song and dance all the time. Well, the territory I sell in, they got money. They don't want to do this.
I don't know.
Brian Worth would tell you different.
Yeah.
$2 million in sales almost last year, and 90% of it racked. He would tell you different.
Here's what, I just want to interject this because I don't want to forget. Here's why I think using the program is even more important today. And everybody, you guys will probably agree with me, is that today I'm noticing, and I don't know if you've noticed it, but contractor services is just getting worse, in my opinion. They just seem to be going downhill. And so when somebody comes to me and says, you don't have to pay me for 90 days, and I'm going to come back and check it, my boss is going to check it, and I don't have to pay you yet till after this is done 90 days, I don't know about you, but that seems from a consumer standpoint very, very appealing to me in these days and times.
Particularly these days and times, right?
Yep.
And if you think about it, all these, like the 6 o'clock news and the 11 o'clock news, they all have these investigative reporters
Yep.
that are going out and they're ratting out these contractors that are just treating people poorly.
Oh,
you know,
no.
They showed up the first day to put the windows in. They did a great job the first day.
Yep.
They've never come back.
Yeah, we're
But
getting
they
gun
took my
shy.
money and they've run.
Yeah, we're getting gun shy. I told you we just did our bathroom,
Yeah.
and the grout job was horrible.
Yeah.
They literally did not say goodbye when they left.
Yeah.
It's almost like they knew they did a crappy job. I'm trying to clean my language
Careful.
up. Crappy job, and they're like they left, and it was the most amazing thing. So I think a lot of consumers are getting burned a lot by contractors.
Yep.
So having this is powerful. So the question to you guys is, I love to see it in the chat. What percentage of your deals are closed with the RAC program?
There's Tinsley saying
Yep.
Brian Worth was slightly above 87% market share.
Yeah. What do you guys got? Enter your numbers in there. What do you think it is? We know what it was for the previous session we did. It was pretty high.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
people
the
using it.
other story I would tell you is we have a region, an entire region of 50 salespeople in this company. It's North Texas, Oklahoma region. The region ended 2022 at an 80% market share, the entire region.
Really?
So there were guys in the 90s, 95s, you know, I mean, they don't allow folks to play in that region if they don't have that there. And by God, their termite sales were through the roof as well.
Interesting.
You know, so I mean,
Yeah.
it kind of ticks and ties. It's kind of like, is it the chicken or the egg? Is it the cart or the horse with Brian Worth? Is he that crazy successful because he's using rack all the time?
Right.
Or is he getting a lot of rack because he's that crazy successful?
Right.
And I think he would be the first to tell you, because I've heard him tell the story. When he first came here, he came from another company. He was wildly successful. I mean, he was going to President's Club every year,
Right.
and he really didn't grasp or hook into the whole rack concept. You know, he would rack it when they didn't have the money.
Right.
But when he gathered that rack up, he shot to the top.
Yeah.
He shot to the top. He probably, I don't know, Brian, if you want to put it in the chat, and you know, the increase in his sales. I mean, I want to say that the first year he really grasped rack.
Yeah.
And it took him a couple, 3 years, and he readily admitted it. Maybe I'm not calling him out.
Yeah.
But I mean, he sold like $400,000 more the next year. And understand this, he was already a rock star.
Right.
He was already going to
Right.
President's Club, right? He just lifted his game.
Yeah. Let's go.
And if you talk to him a little bit, it was because of that.
So Kevin Tinsley said B. Worth was slightly above 87% market share. That's pretty good.
Amen.
That's nicely good numbers.
Amen.
Great numbers.
Amen. And we've got regions out there that are in the teens, right? Which doesn't make any sense to me. If you're selling a service that's worth more than $501, you should be closing every piece of business with, we're so sure of the work that our installers do and our guys do, we don't require any money up front, Victor.
And this is a differentiator compared to our competitors.
I think that's the biggest point, and
Yeah.
that's the biggest bullet in our gun.
Yeah.
You know, all the pest control companies have different stuff to sell.
Right.
Maybe they put a different station around. Maybe they don't use Centricon. Maybe they use one of the others. Maybe they pump a different termiticide around. Maybe they have a different approach to it. But at the end of the day, something that truly separates you is how many of your competitors can offer this. And I would challenge you to tell you there might be one, potentially two in your marketplace that might offer some deferred payments, but certainly not as easy as we do it.
Yeah.
As easy as we do it. And don't forget about this little touch of recession we're kind of sitting in.
Yeah.
You know, payments, people might not want to say they want payments, but they may want payments at the end.
That's a great point, by the
So-
way.
so
That's
if
a really good point right there. Yeah.
If you get a chance to spend
Yeah.
something for $501, put it out there.
Yeah. Racket.
Yeah.
By the way, Jonathan Alvarado says commercial rack needs more support. What does that mean? Ed?
Yeah, well,
What do you
I
take away
think
from
so.
that?
Commercial's a little bit more difficult, but Jonathan, hit me up with the DM on the group me, or send me an email and we'll walk through that a little bit. We're having more success with rack, but typically most of the time we're not. Ivan Velasquez racked. I think I was involved with KT and Ron Evans out there. Ivan Velasquez racked like an $80,000 commercial fume out there in California. You know, probably 3 or 4 months ago. That
Okay.
you know,
But in
it
general,
takes a little bit more effort. It's not as simple.
Oh, okay.
You know, we need a credit app. We need that kind of stuff involved. So
Okay. So it's
and
about
typically it's good.
streamlining the process eventually?
Yeah, well, potentially. I'm not going to promise
Got
to
it.
that. But
Okay.
yeah, just give me a call, Jonathan, and we'll try to walk through
Yeah.
that.
All right.
So
Jonathan,
just
sounds
back
good.
to that one slide, and I just
Yeah.
want to throw back on that real quick. You know, look at all these things: 100% guarantee, no penalty for payments. I mean, that's coming like right from the government.
Yeah.
An exclusive offer. This is an exclusive offer. Satisfaction guaranteed. Simple interest. If you don't understand how to explain that, you know, we can teach you how to do that. Easy monthly payments. This is what's hitting our consuming public
Yeah.
every day. You know, I
Yeah.
pulled these off of Google, you know, the other night as
Right.
I was building the slide out. These These are things that you have in your
Yep.
in your gun. You got this bullet in your gun that many of your competitors don't. Shame, shame, shame on you for not serving it up.
Yeah, I think your point about as we move into, we're probably in a recession, we just don't know it yet.
Absolutely.
But I think having that, remember we were talking about that study that was done, that one of the things they found with Tether, who did all this research on data, that mitigating risk or de-risking a deal, reducing the risk, actually closes more deal.
Yeah.
This ties perfectly into it because this is one way of de-risking a deal.
Yep.
And again, I think you should let the consumer decide whether they want it or not, no matter what their income level is.
Amen. And figure out your own way to spin rack. Brian Worth spins it different than Rory Allegato, both big rackers. They probably have a different spin on it, right? You know, one of the lines that Jason Sire, one of our perennial, you know, rack winners, Chairman's Club winner all the time, uses. I mean, he spins the line, and you know, Victor, a handshake doesn't mean what it used to mean.
Right.
Here's how we eliminate all that. Here's how we eliminate all that. You pay us when you're completely satisfied with the service and the results that service renders. So figure out your own spin, personalize it for you, but by gosh, get after it.
Yeah.
Because it will change your game.
Yeah.
It will change your game. I don't know.
Love it.
Next slide, Stormy, and then we'll get out of here.
All right.
I think at the end of the day, we're talking about three little simple things, right? That really we could spend a whole day on. Inspection, pictures, and closing
the rack.
Deferred building.
Yeah. Deferred.
Pay me when you're happy.
Yeah.
Pay me when you're happy. Spin that to them that way. I think just anything else you want to add? Anything more
I love this. And by the way, we talked about we don't want to use the phrase getting back to the basics, but if you have that killer inspection, which I think is big, leverage the power of pictures, picture superiority, right? And tell your story, and the progression story I think was a great point you made. And last but not least, if we can rack the thing, deferred billing, to reduce or mitigate risk, I mean, that right there is a good platform for a good year.
Yeah. I mean, I've told the story before. You know, 2 years ago we needed to buy a refrigerator, and I'm in Lowe's with my wife because I won't go to Home Depot because they fired us. Right. And I'm in Lowe's with my wife, and the guy says, you know, I can put this out, you know, we can put this payment out for a year, you know. And I looked at my wife, and she said, you know, you just write the check. I said, no. It would be against everything I am and everything I talk about if I didn't put it out. So, yeah, I put it out.
That's cool. That's cool.
Just a couple housekeeping things as we get on out of here. The most important stop of the day is the last stop of the day when you go home. And quite frankly, I'm going to take you all to task, most of you to task. We have done a really, really poor job of using the driving app, the Mentor app. And I want you all to sign into Mentor right now. If you haven't done it yet, before you jump in that truck, before you leave that office, before you move another muscle, sign into that Mentor app. Our compliance as Orkin as a company is embarrassing. And I think it does so much to get you home safer. So please start playing by the rules, start playing by that. It's not intended to be a punishment. It's something to keep you safe. We really, truly want you to go home safely. We have too many, you know, we had a fatality last year that we shouldn't have had. And I'm not saying that the Mentor app would have changed it, but by gosh, we can become better drivers, and it can teach you to become a better driver, so sign in. And the last thing, if you would be so kind, post a takeaway from today's chat in your GroupMe or your Teams or your Slack or whatever kind of communication tool y'all use on a regular basis, so that we understand what's impacting y'all. And I don't know, anything else?
Got nothing else?
No, I mean just a great start to the year, and keep building for growth. See y'all later. Thanks for tuning in.